Hello and welcome to this Anat Thomas discussion. Now, yesterday I went to see DC's Suicide Squad. This is of course the third outing for the DC Cinematic Universe. And all in all, it was good. There were interesting points, the characters were fleshed out. Certain characters got more of a origin story than others, and all in all you got to fully understand why these characters were co-opted into this Suicide Squad by the government and the reasons behind it for each and every one of them. But in this video I want to discuss not only Suicide Squad but the other films that have been released in the DC Cinematic Universe, mainly being Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. All in all, both of the aforementioned films, Man of Steel and Dawn of Justice, have been either disappointing critically or disappointing in the box office. And the same is to be talked about with Suicide Squad. But all three of these three of these films have got their good points. They introduce all of the characters that you need to be introduced to. Of course, some have been shoehorned in, and others have had a longer time to understand their reasonings behind their decisions, and also to explain how they got to where they are. But certain characters like Killer Croc in Suicide Squad, to me, did not get enough screen time. In Suicide Squad, I believe that he would be a character that could have been used a lot more, and in fact we could have had a bit more information about the person before he became Killer Croc, like we got with Harley Quinn and Deathstroke. So, one of the few ways that I would have suggested that they could have done this would have been lessen the amount of time that the Joker was involved in this film. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought the Joker in this film was very impressive. He, of course, is very different from the last incarnation of the Joker we had in live action, which I don't think is any reason to hate on this character. He is a character that has been through a lot, has caused an awful lot of pain, and and there is a particular scene in the film where you actually see that he is in love with Harley Quinn, which to me shows a very human side to the Joker that I don't believe that Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger incarnations of the character has ever really done. Talking about other characters, I think the leader of the squad, Colonel Flagg, to me had the biggest point to prove in this film. Before I went to see the film, I didn't know much about the character, so before I went to see the film, I did some research into his character, into the DC Comics, and to me he had a lot to prove. And to me, what they did in Suicide Squad to this character was superb. He started off basically being an arsehole. He basically started off being a truly horrible agent of the government who hates anything to do with superheroes from point zero. And once he discovers throughout this film that his girlfriend has become possessed by one of these superheroes, Enchantress, I think his journey into discovery really starts happening, and he becomes such an integral part. And you also see that a lot of the characters, Deathstroke, Killer Croc, Captain Boomerang, and even Harley Quinn start to not just they actually start respecting him, because not only just because he's the one who's giving them orders and making sure that they don't escape, because if they escape they could die, but it's down to the fact that they know he's willing to do anything he can to save the woman he loves. And if that means working with these criminals, these supervillains, to get that job done, to rescue and save the woman he loves, then he will do it. And I've heard some people say that's a weakness, not only in the film but in the character from the characterization that is in the comics. But to me, I don't believe that to be true. I think it shows a certain amount of power that, from my research, I never saw him have before in the comics. Of course, you have earlier on in the film, you have scenes with Batman in, where he captures Harley Quinn and Deathstroke. And the way they are done, it shows in a new way of Batman, shows a new side to Batman that other films have never done before, which is the idea that in Batman's mind, Bruce Wayne's mind, he is this warrior in the night who will defend the ordinary public, the general public of Gotham and the world, from all of these supervillains and everyone, all the bad in the world. But in this film, we get to see what the villains think of him. And yes, they fear him as this man that will stop them from doing what they want to do in their criminal lives. That's understandable, I can get that. But what else he does is quite wonderful, because it shows that, all in all, they actually just want him to go away. Before he came onto the scene as the Batman, the criminals were in charge, and all they want to do is they want to regain that sort of power they had before the Batman came, and before they had this man that they had to keep an eye on looking over their shoulder, to be like, I don't know if this man's here or not, I don't know if he's coming for me, I don't know this or I don't know that. And all they want to do is they want to go back to what was normal before. And I think that is incredible. We've had snippets of this before in Christopher Nolan's Batman films. But this film, to me, hammered home that point, that these villains, they've got a reason to be scared of Batman. But also, you have to remember that Batman's scared of them. You might not. I think there's a particular scene as Batman rescues Harley Quinn, And you just see it in his face. You see it saying, you know, I really don't want to have to do this, but I don't want I don't want the Joker or any other criminals in Gotham to come after me saying I'm the one who killed Harley Quinn. So I have to save her to put her in prison, to stop her from doing anything else. And I think that is such a wonderful, because it just shows the mutual hate and dislike that not only the villains have, but Batman has for each other. And I think that's just a wonderful, wonderful way. But going back to what this video is all about, and that is the whole of the DC Cinematic Universe. This is the first villain-led superhero film that we really have had. And, all in all, it was good. Like I said earlier on, it is... the story can be a little bit convoluted sometimes. It's a bit ropey at times with the action. And yeah, that's fine. But, so like I said, Man of Steel. This is the first time, this is the first film in the DC Cinematic Universe. And this film here started it all off. Of course, we got introduced to Superman, who is the pinnacle of being the soldier who is trying to fight evil for the good. And, of course, he is an alien, but he isn't like any other alien. He believes himself to be more human than any other human, because he is an outsider he's an outsider, he knows he's an outsider, but he lives and was brought up on Earth. He's got the principles of a human. And so he tries to live his life as good of a human as he possibly can, and he tries to be the best person he can be. And he does that remarkably in this film. Obviously, he goes up against so horrible things. Obviously, he has to stop General Zod from his home planet destroying Earth, because he wants Superman to be back on Krypton. And he has to fight that against that. And obviously then he has to fight against the pain that he holds by losing his father that has brought him up here on Earth. And just as that happens, he meets his actual biological father from Krypton. And that is just crushing for him, because it's so difficult for him to... He's had this man that he's loved, he's raised him for years and years and years, and put into him that he is... You know, there is a reason why he came to this planet. There is a reason why his birth parents released him from Krypton. And that's that power. And to me that just shows how much weight is on the shoulders of Superman. Moving on to Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Similarly, it shows you the pressure and the power that's on the shoulders of Superman, but it also obviously introduces Batman, who of course is a man that before was the only warrior in the night. He was the only one that was fighting all these bad guys. There wasn't anyone else. He was only himself, and he was very self-contained in Gotham. But now you've got Superman, and the two of them have to fight to try and... because they both have... Batman and Superman have both sort of been brainwashed against one another, but without ever really meeting. And that's just wonderful in that realisation that that's happening. And then of course you've got their arch villain in Lex Luthor, who is deliberately attempting to cause all this aggro for the pair of them, which to us as the viewers is so awful, because we know from the comics and the television series and other films that these two characters are the closest of friends, and to see them be ripped apart even before they meet is horrific for us as fans of these characters. So yes, and going back to Suicide Squad, Amanda Weller is this person that is forced all of these arch villains of all these superheroes in the DC universe together to be this squad that will do whatever they are told, just so they can lose a bit of time on their sentences for all the crime and all the horrible things that they've done in their entire lives as supervillains. But yeah, and of course, at the end of the film, we see that Amanda has met with Bruce Wayne, who basically informs her that you never have to do this again. If anything else happens, just tell me and I'll have my friends come and help. Which of course is highlighting the future of the DC cinematic universe in the Justice League. And of course that's in the future. And between then and now we have Wonder Woman coming out and a few other films that are going to encumber all of those films and all these characters to bring them together into the Injustice League film, which to me is going to be wonderful. But the real question I think I want to answer, and you probably want to hear my answer, is this. Do I think DC has done as good a job as Marvel? My answer is no. I don't think anyone expected me to say yes to that, but here's my reason. Marvel have already did create individual films for their individual characters. To then, once you've grown to like those individual characters, like Iron Man, like Incredible Hulk, like Captain America, like Thor, they got all brought together into the Avengers, and that's that. They've done that. DC have been in such a rush that Superman, that's fine, got introduced in Man of Steel, that's fine, I don't mind that. But in Dawn of Justice, how many characters were introduced? You had Batman, you had Wonder Woman, you had The Flash, you had Aquaman. You've got Lex Luthor, you've got all of these guys. And even in Suicide Squad, you've got how many characters have been introduced? New characters, not characters that have already been created and already mentioned in other films. They've never been mentioned before in the other two films. They've never been mentioned. All of these characters, you've got Harley Quinn, you've got Deathstroke, you've got Captain Boomerang, you've got Enchantress, you've got Killer Croc. You have all of these different characters that, of course, I can understand why they've done it. They want to build up a universe. But is it rushed? Yes, it's rushed. Of course it's rushed. Do I think it's been rushed badly? No, I don't. I think they've done the best they can with the time they've got and the characters they have to use. They've done a good job. And I will respect them for this. They have not done as bad as I first thought. Do I think this universe has a future? I'll give it time. I'll watch all the rest of them. Of course I will. But am I dubious? Yes, I am. I am very dubious. But all in all, I think coming on the back of Marvel, DC's doing their best. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, they're not doing a bad job. So, DC out there, I would say thank you very much for 3 relatively good films. They're not brilliant. They could have been much better, but the ones you've got out there are good. So I respect you for that, and I look forward to seeing your next outings in 2017. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Actor Thomas. Goodbye.